So why is it that we end up electing incredibly horny animals, and no, I don't mean Anthony Weiner, the rhino, to office instead of trustworthy, fully representational people? Our trust gap is perpetuated in that we, first, can't agree on facts, and second, ostracize contrary opinions. Now, the dispute on facts is rampant. According to Pew Research, 61% of millennials use social media as their primary political news source, without realizing our feeds are personalized, based on past behavior, leaving the other side of the same issue unheard. It makes sense. I don't know if you know, but the other side is a group of anti-American, overly patriotic, anti-social justice communists, socialist, capitalist, pig sheep dogs, or as Scientific American clarified in January, we seek confirmation for our existing biases. But by ignoring objective, fair-minded reports, we create the distrust surrounding leaders from the other side. Listening only to ourselves is causing us to ostracize contrary opinions. And nowhere is this more evident than in our contemporary echo chamber phenomenon. In a Wall Street Journal expose titled Blue Feed, Red Feed, journalist John Keegan shows what news feeds look like from opposite ends of the political spectrum. In the liberal corner, articles like Checkmate, Why Trump's Going to Jail, and GOP sells out American people. In the conservative corner, watch liberal snowflakes melt down, and Crooked Hillary won't release medical records. Could she be hiding crooked cancer? It sounds silly, but from losing trust in different-minded leaders, echo chambers unfortunately also sacrifice honesty from all-inclusive figures. In his 2003 book Authentic Leadership, Bill George finds leaders are often pressured to be like-minded to their supporters, out of fear of losing trust. Consequently, we alienate the very leaders attempting to offer two-way solutions, and the leaders who strive for unity are never trusted. But even when our problems rain down like cats and dogs, we fixate on who to blame, instead of helping those poor cats and dogs. Similarly, our incessant need to assign blame leads to aversion of issues that need attention. The resulting societal consequences of our trust gap are that we first feel alienated and disengage. And second, when we do engage, it's to tear others down, not build our community up. On February 23rd of this year, the National Education Association detailed the lack of trust between students and teachers. The report describes that when students see and expect injustice or disrespect in their classrooms, they disengage, defy, and underperform. Moving from the classroom to the boardroom, economist Joseph Stiglitz explains, leaders who lose the trust of their followers make them feel as if we, simply don't matter, which leads to only more division and destruction. And we're seeing it now. Both the Washington Post and Fox News agreed last July. America is more divided than ever. More than 4 in 10 Democrats and Republicans say the other party threatens the existence of this country. Unfortunately, we've just stopped there. Instead of discussion, we agree to disagree, and no new solutions can be offered. I'm not advocating we elect a rhino into office, but we've accepted a system where leaders preaching unity aren't trusted enough to be empowered. When George Washington warned us that partisanship would lead to not only a lack of trust, but the ruins of public liberty, he was more right than he knew. Finding trustworthy leaders isn't just political. For me, it's personal. When I left Venezuela at the age of 5, I thought the differences between my home country and Los Estados Unidos were as follows. We substituted harina pan for chicken nuggets. We stopped singing Feliz Cumpleaños for up to 5 minutes and crooned Happy Birthday for 20 seconds. And the television was no longer stuck on telenovelas. I didn't learn for years that my family fled to this great nation from a country where we don't have the luxury of civil discourse or the possibility of fair elections. Back in Venezuela, my own cousins have been systematically silenced. Every single day, the National Guard fires on civilians, and hundreds of thousands of my countrymen gather for violent demonstrations against the dictatorship. There are no parent-teacher conferences, the police fire on civilians, leaders think for corruption's sake. I know that any single day could be the last for the families that remain. As they fight for change, losing what little voice they have left, I see too many embittered citizens in my new nation readily throw their democratic options away. A Pew Research poll from May of 2017 found that only 55.7% of the US voting population cast ballots last November. How can we expect trustworthy representation if we only give 55.7% participation? Some say bridging this trust gap is an opportunity. They're wrong. It's an obligation. Ronald Reagan once told us to trust but verify. Whether you're a teacher who wants the genuine support of your students, a business person who wants real trust from your employees, or an aspiring politician who wants to see their country thrive, it's time to verify that we can trust in one another. So while Cacareco the rhino doesn't hold our answer, perhaps the rest of the animal kingdom does. There are two perspectives to consider: the lions and the lambs. First, if you're a lion or a leader, be real. The aforementioned professor, Bill George, clarifies that trust means unity. By inviting criticism, fostering constructive dissent, and encouraging listening and discussion of all ideas, a sense of faith in leadership is rekindled. Second, if you're a follower or a lamb, be involved. Management specialist John Dame contends that at their core, all leaders want the same things: to be appreciated and remembered. That appreciation comes by showing our leaders that we share the same values, or are at least willing to understand theirs. Only then can society work as one to solve the problems we will all inevitably face as one, with rightful leaders at the head of the pack. And if trustworthy leaders are truly nowhere to be found, that's when we must do as John F. Kennedy said: ask what we can do for our country, and either support new leaders or become the leaders we wish to see. Speaking of leaders we wish to see, Cacareco the rhino's victory was ultimately nullified by Brazilian election officials. She died at the ripe old age of 8 in 1962. However, the message was clear. Their leadership was lacking. Casting voto cacareco upon the distrust we've held on to is the path towards not just finding, but trusting our needed authentic leaders. In an incredibly divided time, remember, trust is a must.